All right. Well, I'm excited to be on this conversation with you, April. I know you and I were talking about just some of your goals and what you're looking to achieve. At the same time, we were talking about how much athleticism you've been getting into with all the soccer teams that you're on and the exercise. And you had some questions for me. So if you could just repeat what those questions were and what you'd like to know.
Sure. My biggest concern was when I'm on the 5-1
Hmm.
is fueling my body properly
Hmm.
while I'm doing the exercise I am. I'm on three soccer games or teams. I weight lift multiple times a week. One day I do a boot camp class that
Hmm.
is extremely hard. I often do sauna, steam room, and swim. So as you can see, I'm very active.
Hmm.
And I'm really concerned about making sure I get the proper nutrition in my body while those days I'm active, while being on 5-1.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And so one of the things I want to talk about is just to identify typically what would be recommended is that someone would take back those activities, and they would kind of just go the first 4 days as a whole with just the 5-1, cutting their exercise at least in half, if not keeping it real low key, just some core exercises, some basic walking, that kind of stuff, but nothing that's going to be over strenuous for their body. And that will give them the best opportunity to maximize getting into fat burn where your body can truly pull from that fat. Now, with that said, some people just decide that, I've got commitments to my athletic sports, or I've got, it's kind of a way of life, and it's an identity thing. And if I take that away from myself, I just don't know what I would do. Right. And
Yeah.
so with that in mind, okay, I will say you're not going to get the maximal into fat burn results that you would if we would have followed it in that sequence, but you're going to get some really good fat burn results going this other direction. Plus, you're going to get all those benefits of playing the sport, the peace of mind that you get from that, the energy release, the stress release, all that stuff, right? And the
Right.
fitness benefit. So I will say that you do have to make that decision on, do you want to go ideal maximum fat burn, ideal appetite control, ideal, all those things. Because understand that as we're about ready to make these modifications, which is what we're going to do here for you,
Yeah.
is that you may have to chase appetite a little bit for a little bit longer before you feel that balance. You may have to chase energy a little bit more with these modifications. And you may see that the weight loss results, instead of being 2 to 5 pounds of fat per week on average the first couple of weeks and 1 to 2 thereafter, might be a little lower. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
And that's by choice. And so as long
Yeah.
as you're mentally, emotionally saying, I'm choosing that, and you're in the understanding of it, we're going to go this direction of this modified program. All right. In the event, though, you're not getting the results that you want, body weight loss wise, appetite control wise, or energy balance wise, then you might want to reconsider the approach that we're taking. Come back to me, and let's go ahead and maybe go more traditional, and then
Sure.
reintegrate back the exercise activities.
Okay.
All right. And I want to be really clear. I'm a huge fan of the active life that you have, at the right time when it's the best for your body.
I agree.
Okay. And something else that you shared with me is that you're a little concerned about chronic overuse injuries that might be happening in your body, and the
Yeah.
shin splints, and that's all signs of inflammation. And, taking off my Take Shape for Life coach hat, because pretty much at this point, some Take Shape for Life coaches might not actually know what I'm about ready to say. And you don't need to know what I'm going to say to be a good Take Shape for Life coach. You might refer somebody to a trainer, or
Yeah.
refer them to the bio network of support, and have them email the client services or nutrition support services and have that client. So if I didn't know what I knew about just basically exercise and fitness and physiology, I'd refer you to contact Take Shape for Life and find out what their personal trainer on staff would say about shin splints or about these other things. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it does.
Right. And I want you to know you always have availability of that resource. And you can find the contact information inside your quick start guide towards the second to last, or the last page.
Okay. I know exactly where that is.
Perfect. And also on my co-branded website, the site you go to place your orders, there's a tab in the upper right-hand corner called Support.
Yep.
And in there, they have some different guides for exercise in there.
Yes, I've looked at those.
Perfect. And then in the lower right-hand corner of the page, there is a Contact TSFL link that can take you to where you can just directly email or call the Take Shape for Life bio network of support services that are available. Okay?
Okay. I didn't know that was there, so that's awesome.
Perfect. So that's all the prerequisite framing I wanted to tell you about ahead of time. But let's just go ahead and work with you in the regard to the modification. So here's my recommendation. My recommendation is, first off, let's prioritize which components of the active lifestyle that you're currently involved in are you just saying, I really can't see myself giving that up, even though I'm going into fat burn right now? So tell me which ones in the priority order are like you saying, I'm just going to probably keep these this next week.
So there's a few factors involved. One was soccer. I'm on 3 teams, but I paid for all 3 teams. But we only have 2 games left each team.
Okay.
So I don't want to stop doing soccer because of that, because I already paid for it and it's a lot of money. However, there is a little break in between games. And if you really highly suggested that I stop playing soccer for 1 season and then pick it up later during the next season, because there's 8-week break, I would take that recommendation from you, although I would not be happy to. But I would do it if that's what my body needs. So I need to finish the last 2 weeks up and then go from there, however you advise me to go. So soccer right now isn't an option. With weightlifting, weight training, the sauna, the steam room, all of that is flexible. It's going off of what you highly suggest for me. I'm willing to stop it if I have to, or take it down a level. Keeping in mind, I do have a workout partner, so I will still be going to the gym and still training her, even if I'm not training myself.
Okay. Well, that's really great to know kind of where you're at in your headspace. And there's some things that sound like they're lifestyle priorities for you. At the same time, your health is super important to you, and you're willing to make some modifications if needed. Well, since we've got this 2-week period of time coming up, I could just make this blanket statement and say, well, let's just start the program 2 weeks from now. However, what I'd like to see you start doing is moving towards better nutrition and some better principles. What we may find is that with this modification that we're going to start with, that after 2 weeks, we need to do another reset, right? And kind of modify the program. And then we can kind of make a judgment call on how your body's feeling, how you're responding, whether it makes sense to take that 8-week period of time off or not, right? If you were somebody who had like an extra, let's say 50 pounds on your body, 60, 70 pounds on your body, I'd say soccer is a super no-no, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you're within 30 pounds of like a healthy weight, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, almost an ideal healthy weight with the kind of muscularity that you like and the kind of fitness physique that you like, right? If you're a petite little girl with these little skinny muscles, maybe you'd be like 35, 40 pounds away, right? But so it's not like we're talking about a ton of weight here. So that's why I'm actually kind of saying, all right, you said it's not an option in the next 2 weeks. So let's talk about better health and eating in this meantime. And let's understand that we're not going to be doing an exact 5-in-1 program. We're going to use 5-in-1 as the foundation of the program. We're going to add some modifications for performance. Okay. And the reason why we have to call it performance is because you're having to perform at a higher level. And the fuel inside of your body that we use for performance is called blood sugar, right? And this blood sugar that we have, it gets into our body from food, right? And so food isn't just this pleasurable thing that we get to eat to comfort us during emotional times or excitements or whatever. And just when we get a knick-knack for a craving or something, it's actually fuel that's going to fire you up to give you what you need, especially if you're an athlete playing soccer or you're going to be doing any kind of conditioning on your body. So with that in mind, the real key is that you read through the Quick Start Guide to get the foundation of the 5-in-1 program, eating every 2 to 3 hours, okay? It's all on the Quick Start Guide, but eating every 2 to 3 hours. And if you miss a meal because of something logistically going crazy in your life or something coming up, you want to make up that meal as quick as you can to the time that you can get to it. And a way not to miss meals is to keep extra bars or convenient foods around you no matter where you go, right? And then from there is to make up that meal as quick as you can. And then whatever time the next meal should have been had you had not missed, you want to eat it then. Don't bump all your meal times off because you missed that one meal.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And
that's huge.
It is huge because your body needs the extra nutrients. This isn't just about calories. This is about proteins to rebuild muscles. And this is about having the right kind of fuel at the right time. And it's about having the nutrients, and your body like kind of stores up those nutrients and it sends them out as needed. So you want to make those up as quick as you can, and then you want to get that timing back on track the way it was supposed to have been had you not missed. So even if it means you're eating 2 meals at the same exact time, right, you would want to eat both of them and then, keep going. So what else were you going to ask?
What if I eat a meal too early? Like if I'm starving and I just have to get another early meal in, then what I do?
Well, that's a good question.
In concept?
What I'm hoping, yeah, it's very similar. If you eat a meal too early, you want to basically keep your timing as best as you can. However, when you say too early, like give me an idea. You ate it, let's say 8 o'clock, and
So
then
yesterday, I have an example.
okay.
So yesterday, I ate at 7:20 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Then at I think 9:20. But then I usually have lunch around 12, but I was starving at like 10. So it only been like an hour and 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I was starving. So I ate, I believe, at 10. But then I ate again at 12:30. So I mean, they were.
Got it.
Sense.
And one of the things I think it's very important to understand is your situation is that you were still playing soccer, you were still exercising, which isn't normally recommended, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
You were on day one. I know that wasn't your coach's advice, but you just have this thing you were doing. That's why we're having this conversation about that. So in those cases, you're basically just going against your physiology and that you're burning a ton of energy. Your body can't keep up from fat burn that quick, right? And so you're going to be starving. Your body's starving because it's saying, I'm empty on fuel. I need fuel, and I can't get enough from fat quick enough because you're not in fat burn yet, right?
That's
so
right.
This recommendation for the first 4 days would be different than if you were feeling this after the first 4 days and you already were in fat burn, okay? But in general, it's basically just telling you your body's hungry. So you're probably not going to get into a proper fat burn stage with where you're at now because of all the exercise. So you just need to get the best types of fueling choices that you can in when you're starving. The first 4 days are going to be a little bit of a bear, something to have to kind of get through. And then once you get into this, it will start to balance out because your body will actually be able to refuel yourself from those extra fat stores. Okay.
Okay. So, side note, I did order snacks for Medifast when I ordered from you, which should arrive Monday. So I ordered a lot of snacks. I ordered Calorie Burn. I ordered the on-the-go drinks. I mean, so I tried to be as prepared. Lots of bars, lots of things that are easy and fast.
Yep.
But they won't be here until Monday.
Okay, so in the event, they'll go back to that question. I'm glad you have all those convenient foods, but in the event that you do eat early, okay?
Yeah.
Important, and it sounds like you did, that you're eating a low glycemic healthy choice early, whether it's a Medifast meal or some extra protein, something that keeps your blood sugar balanced and low. The kind of the worst choices that you could eat if you were eating early would be to go to fruits or sugars or carbohydrates or anything that's not on that quick start guide approved list, because that's going to send your blood sugar up way too high and you'll be hungry all the time, right? But what's nice is that if you do eat something, especially since you were exercising and everything else, it's low glycemic, and then you want to keep the timing as best you can at the regimen of when you were supposed to eat next again, right? Okay. So if you have that little extra, then you want to from there eat at what the other time was, because we want to establish a routine of timing of nutrients and delivery, and that can go good with their lifestyle. So if, in essence, what time did you get up yesterday?
6:30.
Okay, so you'd want to eat within about a half an hour of getting up for your first meal, ideally, because you just breaking a fast, your body's blood sugar levels are definitely needing. Even if you don't feel very hungry, you want to do that, because what will happen if you wait and all of a sudden you start getting hungry, you may eat that little meal and it may not feel like enough because you were waiting till you were hungry to eat, and it's just not going to satisfy you. Versus if you ate before you really felt that massive hunger pain, it's going to balance your blood sugar out.
What if I'm hungry when I wake up?
Well, what's telling you you're hungry? And again, your blood sugar levels, when they're low under natural circumstances, I'm not talking about craving food for emotional reasons. I'm talking about there's physical hunger. It's telling you, your body's saying, I'm not pulling fat yet. Hunger is a sign saying I'm not getting enough fuel from outside sources or from internal sources. And those internal sources we want to go after are obviously fat. And it takes 3 to 4 days of solid being in this lower blood sugar state for your body to fully convert over. So there is about a 3 day to 4 day window of feeling a little bit hungry.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the extra hydration is going to come in. That's where the approved healthy snacks and condiments are going to come in. And those are all things. So look, you get 3 condiment servings per day, up to 3 condiment servings per day on the program. And that's outlined in the Quick Start Guide. And there's also an expanded condiments guide that helps you to understand that. Okay?
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about.
Perfect. So use some of those lower glycemic options and things just to kind of get you going. Sometimes tea can help you feel a little more full. Sometimes a cup of bouillon can really help you feel a little more full. And people underrate bouillon, because bouillon is like, basically you can use vegetable bouillon or chicken broth bouillon. It has some sodium in it that can help your body really get the electrolytes it needs during this process, especially if you're athletic and moving. You have a question?
So side note, I did buy that when I started programs. I have some of the bouillon. My question was, so I'm a huge coffee drinker and I'm completely 100% addicted to Starbucks. I crave it all day long. So what I've been doing, like this morning when I woke up, I ate my Medifast within probably 10 minutes of waking up, but I immediately had 16 ounces with the calorie burn, like the strawberry, you put it in the water, the calorie burn. And I feel amazing since I did that. But is that something that is good to do? Like if I wake up, can I do that? Like, is that?
Yeah. And are you talking about that on top of the Starbucks, or that in place?
No. So I don't have the Starbucks, because I crave Starbucks all day.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you're craving is that, and again, I love how Starbucks is branding themselves, what we're calling Starbucks coffee now. But basically, Starbucks is obviously coffee, right? Yeah. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
And they have a particular brand, I know. Okay. And so I obviously encourage you, if you're buying an actual Starbucks, it might be more of the emotional experience, because you can make it at home just as good as they make it. Right?
Actually, you can make it at home with the Starbucks stuff. Yes.
Okay, got it. So 35 cents versus a $2.50. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, mine's more like $5.85.
Okay, exactly. And then with that being said, is that, you're allowed up to 300 milligrams of caffeine before, I'd say 10 a.m. is the best, because that will affect sleep afterwards. However, what's in the calorie burn, the products that Medifast has that have calorie burn in them, whether it's the little packet or whether it's some of the Medifast meals that have the calorie burn, is that they've put a combination of very well balanced energy producing things, and the caffeine they're using is very well balanced energy. It doesn't give you these spikes and then all of a sudden these crashes. They're trying to literally get that energy to flow a certain way. And so, yes, that's a really great thing. And as you start to lean out, and as you start to reduce inflammation in your body through eating healthier and drinking water properly and getting proper sleep, and this all happens over time, we start laying this in, you're going to naturally start producing energy better for yourself, and you'll start not only having that energy, but you'll break the craving or the hunger or the desire, and I say the hunger, not the emotional hunger of having to have that thing. But you do have to remove yourself from it for a period of time, and there is a little bit of a stop, challenge, choose thing that has to go on with that. And for those of you who don't know what stop, challenge, choose is, start with reading chapters 3 and 4 of your Habits of Health book. And then there's some things in the index you can look up for stop, challenge, choose, or talk with your coach about how to understand how you have the power to make choices. And the better you get at understanding that, and the better you get at, and the more practice you have with making those choices for health, the more victorious you feel, and the more your brain then learns that you're in control and you don't have to have that. And the urge for that craving starts to go away. And that in the beginning can be painful, but over time you will find it becomes freedom. Okay?
Yes.
So perfect. So you're doing great. And I think that the answer to your question really is that, the calorie burn product can be really great for not only balancing energy out, burning an extra up to 120 to 150 calories per day if you have 3 of them, if you need. But I would say towards afternoon is I would start to lay off of those types of things, unless you absolutely just need the energy because you're about ready to fall asleep at work or something, okay? Just because we don't want to mess with your sleep patterns on the other side, right?
Oh, caffeine doesn't really affect my sleep patterns.
Okay. Here's the issue with caffeine, regardless of whether you're sleeping or not, is how deep of a quality of a sleep you get into and how much of a recovery. So the nervous system, caffeine is what's called a central nervous system stimulant, okay? And regardless of whether it affects your ability to go to sleep and wake up, it does affect your ability for your nervous system to recover and function on its own properly, okay? And that's something that is aside from sleep alone. It's just teaching our body, and that's where we start becoming addicted to it, is that all of a sudden we don't know how to function without it, or we just feel nervous or anxiousness with, and those are the other symptoms of having addictions to something is that it doesn't let our brain and our nervous system rest. So I don't want to go too far into that, and I'm glad to hear that you can still sleep good.
So you're saying don't have the caffeine after 10 a.m.? Is that what you said? Ideally
10, but the kind of that hard ceiling, what we know from a lot of studies is that afternoon is really like, oh my goodness. And when I say this is talking about somebody who has a normal go to bed by 10 o'clock kind of a routine and waking up by 6 or 7 in the morning. If your schedule's off a little bit, you might be able to adjust. However, What you can't change is the fact that the sun sets at a certain time and the sun comes up at a certain time.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with our energy cycles in our body. So even if you work a graveyard shift or not, there's certain things in your body and in the way that hormones are being produced that are affected by sunlight. So it is kind of one of those things. As you read the sleep chapter in the Habits of Health book, you'll learn more about this. So all
probably
right.
get that then.
All right, yeah. There's a lot of things about health other than just closing your eyes and waking up, right? And timing does make a difference.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I had no idea that caffeine affected us that way. Like I always thought it was if you couldn't go to sleep, it was on a caffeine high.
Yeah, and I would encourage you, if you will, you could even email the nutrition support at tsfl.com. And I think it's called nutrition support at tsfl.com. Check in the back of your book and ask them, what are some of the negative effects of caffeine? Or are there any websites that you guys can recommend for me to understand about caffeine in my health, pros and cons, right?
Okay.
And then you're educated. And then again, reading the Dr. A Habits of Health chapters on caffeine, which are in the sleep chapters and those stimulants. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
I'll do that.
All right. And so now kind of look at everything we just said as kind of a basic foundation for where we're going to go now. All right. Yeah. So we're going to kind of go chapter 2 here just for a moment. All right. Okay. So what we want to talk about now is how we're going to modify your program specifically because you have a more athletic lifestyle and you're exercising and you're getting things in that require more energy than just the 5-in-1 plan. So you've got the 5-in-1 as the basis. You can review the quick start guide to get that there, the healthy fat servings, the proper amount of water I'd recommend as an athlete is somewhere between 80 to 100 ounces of water per day at a minimum. And the days that you're really sweating and going, making sure that you add even a little bit more. And some people that are athletic like to know how you can add a little more is if you have access to a scale prior to exercise, you can weigh yourself, and then after you've exercised, you can weigh yourself again and see how much you've lost. And then you want to add that additional. So let's say I exercise, I play a game of soccer, and I lose a pound during the game itself. That's 16 ounces of water that I need to rehydrate myself with above and beyond how much I would normally drink. So if my recommendation is to drink 100 ounces per day, and I also exercise, and I notice I'm losing a pound of water, I would maybe drink 116 ounces on that particular day. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Hydration is key to metabolism. It's key to getting toxins out of your body in that regard, and it's key to controlling appetite.
So it's 16 ounces of water per pound?
Okay. Yep, that means an 8-ounce cup of water is a half a pound.
Okay.
Right? All right. Now, on top of this, what we want to think about is pre- and post-exercise nutrition. Very important. Before you exercise, you want to make sure you have the proper fuel so you can exercise appropriately. However, if your goal was to maximize performance, this pre- and post-exercise nutrition is going to be a little different than if your goal is to lose body fat and still perform as best as you can. All right? And we have to pick a priority. So under our conversations, I think the scenario we're looking at is let's get this weight off. Even if I can't perform like a world-class athlete, I got to focus on getting this weight down. Because if you get this weight down 30 pounds, that's going to do wonders for your health, for your speed, for your injury prevention. You know what I mean?
You're exactly on. Yes, that's what I want.
Huge. You'll be so much faster, quicker, and more energy. And so you have to think about the short-term focus for the long-term gain of health. And so with that in mind, what we want to now think about is if you're following the 5-in-1 plan and you're going to go and play, let's say, how long is your game of soccer?
On Wednesdays, I play 2 45-minute games.
Okay. So what we can do is you can go into a calorie calculator, and there's one on mytsfl.com where you can plug in the activity that you're doing. And if you can't find it there, you can just Google activity calculators online. There's different ones out there. Livestrong has one where you can livestrong.com. You can enter in any activity. Okay. So my TSFL, if it doesn't have it there, go check it out on Livestrong. And you can put in soccer, and then it's going to ask you, practice, moderate, high intensity, or it'll just kind of average it out. And you put the time, and it's going to give you an estimate of what it thinks based on average people who play soccer, how many calories you're going to burn during that activity. Okay. Once we know about how many calories you're burning, and if you have a heart rate monitor or some kind of a Fitbit that's kind of telling you that, you could go off of that. It's an estimate. It's not dead on accurate unless you hook up yourself to one of those oxygen machines and there's a scientist tracking numbers.
Yeah.
But let's just, as an example, say that it says that you burned 700 calories in that 45-minute game. Okay? then you would want to make sure that you're replacing about 50% of those calories pre and post exercise nutrition relative to the time that you're going to do the activity. So what's half of 700 to be 350? Okay, and if I was going to split that into pre and post, I would take that 350 and I would divide that by 2, right? And I'd have 175. I think that's right. Is that in 175? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I would say then you'd want 175 extra calories prior to soccer, about 30 minutes to an hour before you're going to do the activity, so your body has the extra fuel that it can use during the game. Okay, and about 175 after the game, immediately after, as quick as you can. And the sources for those calories should be an extra Medifast meal or something that's on the lean and green list of approved low glycemic vegetables or proteins. Okay. Now, if you're in a pinch and you just have to get something in, you could go with something like milk if you do dairy. If you don't do dairy, then you'd have to find something else like a
what about cottage cheese?
Yeah, and again, cottage cheese would not be on the typical 5-in-1 plan unless it's a low fat, cottage cheese or a no fat cottage cheese. However, during your athletic time, I would say post exercise, that would be one of your best options. And post exercise, it's important. This is after you've exercised, that you go with something that has a very low fat content afterwards. And the reason why is that fat slows down digestion in the gut. Fat is good for you overall in the appropriate amounts, but if you need the nutrients to go into your muscles to help you not waste muscles after you've broke them down, you want to go with something that's got a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbohydrate. So cottage cheese right afterwards could be good if it's non-fat.
Okay. Okay. I have a few different protein bars I use, and one I just ordered from Groupon. Is it okay if I email it to you and see if that would be okay?
You know what you could do is you could email it to me, and you could email it to nutrition support.
Okay.
And just let them know you're an athlete and you're having to, and then they'll take a look at it and they'll tell you the glycemic effect. Because what we're doing is we're trying to find the balance of what's going to keep you in the closest state of fat burn that we can afterwards. And the biggest thing that's going to take you out of fat burn is if the carbohydrate content is higher than about 15 grams of carbohydrate. That's the biggest challenge that you're going to have.
Okay.
Yeah. And so really, I would say what's safe is for sure is a Medifast bar is going to be good because it's going to keep that in that balance. The other thing is the nutrient levels. See, here's one thing about Medifast bars that I think a lot of people, or not just bars, but meals that people don't understand. The shake is the quickest assimilating, which means if you drink a Medifast shake, it's going to go into your body and into your cells very quickly because it's already broken down and denatured for you, so it can go into the gut and then get into the bloodstream very quickly.
Okay.
That's why shakes don't fill you up as much, because they do have some fiber, but they don't have, they're already pre-chewed, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas when you go with the bars or the stuff you have to chew, it still has to be broken down, but it's still pretty readily available. Now, when you compare Medifast to other bars, like energy bars that are out there, the reason why other bars don't work as well as Medifast bars, even if they're the same protein, carbohydrate, and fat ratio, is because Medifast medically designs their meals to have the exact nutrient balance, fiber balance, and the way that they put those into that, the way that it's called an enrobing process, the way they actually put them in there, they're checking to see, does this particular nutrient get into the cell or get into your body appropriately? And so there's a difference between, it's called bioavailability. How available is what you ate?
Yeah.
Where some of these energy bars try and copy these formulas, but they don't actually test their product to make sure they're there. And that's why you can get these little cheap 85-cent, bars and these things, which are just mostly packing in low quality ingredients and nutrients. And then Medifast is then making sure that the exact amount of vitamins, minerals are in the ratios they need for your body to function well. They're putting all the collaborative vitamins so that, think about this, if all of a sudden I get in a car and I go to drive it, but I don't actually stick a key in the ignition, it's just a car sitting there and it's no good to me, right?
Right.
Certain nutrients need another nutrient to be a key to unlock them for absorption.
Okay.
Medifast has considered that when they made the actual balance. So I don't want to give you a big Medifast sales pitch, but what I want to give you is why Medifast works so well is not just because of the protein, carbon, fat ratio.
And I appreciate that because I don't know any of this.
Yeah. And so really it's about, you can trust it. It's not to say that there aren't other companies that have made stuff that does this. I just know that you're not just paying for that bar, you're paying for the science behind it and that it does that. So when you are getting some post-exercise fuel, you can rely on that. However, now that I've said all that, we don't want to go to where all of a sudden you're eating 6 and 7 Medifast meals in a day, okay?
Yeah.
Because your body needs whole foods as well so that the gut health can be there, digestion can be there. And then we also want to create the habit of you eating real food. So that's why I would say, yeah, if you need, you got to go with the cottage cheese afterwards or some kind of a milk or some kind of something to get those calories in because it's quick and it's available, you know, go with it. Because your body does need that for digestion. And the other thing, not necessarily milk, because some people, I don't do milk personally.
I love milk, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And then and I'd go non-fat just for post-exercise nutrition. And it's not that I'm a non-fat eater. I actually eat healthy fats. It's just that you need to get it into your system quick, and fat will slow down your gut health. I mean, slow down your gut digestion.
The question.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the 700 calorie, breaking it down 50%, getting the 350, 175 before a workout and then 175 after. Mm-hmm. So Medifast bars usually have about 100 calories, for example, ish. Mm-hmm. So I would want, if I did Medifast before working out, then I would essentially want 2 bars or 2 meals, right? If I want 175 calories. Yeah,
and one of the, and here's the thing about it is that you could actually, and it's up to, you don't have to get exactly the half. If you start with a little bit less and all of a sudden you're going, hey, I feel fine, you might actually decide that you're going to go with, let's say you estimate it's going to be 700. Let's say you go with 175 before, and then afterwards you only go with like 50 or 100, and you feel fine. You could do that. If it's a little bit less before and a little bit more afterwards. And we can play with this to try and see if we can maximize potential over time. Now, in the event that, it's going to really be above 5 Medifast meals a day, or let's just say above 6 Medifast meals a day, I would say get those extra calories, not from another bar or another shake or another Medifast meal on top of that. I'd say that's where you would want to definitely go with that cottage cheese, or definitely go with those other sources of vegetables, or maybe a V8 juice, or something like that. Even though V8 juice is going to be a little higher glycemic, okay, not high glycemic, but moderate glycemic, higher blood sugar content. After exercise, your body kind of needs that, okay? So that's where, if you were going to have something that wasn't exactly on program, that's where you're going to want to have it, is just post the exercise nutrition. At the same time, don't go crazy and go with like candy and sugars and all that other stuff. Choose a healthy choice that you've been kind of missing and go with, for post-exercise then. So worst case scenario, you ate an apple afterwards. You know what I mean?
So I have and I will email nutrition support on this per your advice, but I do have a post-workout recovery drink that I take, and it's French vanilla, and I love it. Mm-hmm. So I'll email nutrition support and make sure that's okay too, but that will probably be what I'll use if they, all right.
Yeah, and let them know I'm choosing, and you can even tell them when you send it there saying, I'm looking to get the best fat burn that I can, with the fact that I'm still choosing to exercise, right? So that way they don't try and give you the sales pitch on you have to go into fat burn, you know what I mean? Because if you say my goal is 100% fat burn, and, they're going to try and talk you into doing this program the way that, they know it works the best.
Yeah, okay.
And everything I'm telling you is that I've helped people with these types of fueling modifications, and it's given them the lifestyle they want and the best results possible on the side. Again, if it just ends up not working, where you're not losing the weight or your appetite's out of control for whatever reason, then we need to make some more changes to what you're doing exercise-wise, most likely, right?
Okay.
So perfect. Yeah. And I think that, just send over what you have, and we'll take a look at it and see if there's any red flags. And again, reason why I say email nutrition support is just so you can get their opinion too, because they're pretty wise. They work with a lot of people. All right, great. Okay, so now that you kind of know the pre and post exercise nutrition general guidelines with the estimations of calories and all that stuff, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you also want to start thinking about, again, keeping that meal timing after pre and post exercise at what it would have been as the 5 and 1. So don't modify the times of your 5 and 1 ideally to make up for your pre and post exercise nutrition. That's additional above and beyond. And the days that you don't exercise, you don't need those modifications to the pre and post exercise nutrition. And on top of that, you want to ideally have no more than 3 to 4 days of any kind of exercise that's kind of above and beyond walking or, basic core or stretching before you kind of take a day off. Because if you're going 3-4 days, your body needs recovery from impact. It really does need a day to let inflammation come down.
Yeah.
All right. And you need a little cleansing going. Extra water and just the 5 and 1 can be good.
And yesterday was that kind of day for me. Good. So another thing that I realized while we've been talking. So I usually have all 5 of my meals, my Medifast meals, usually right when I get off work. So I had my first one, around 7 in the morning, and I'm usually having my 5th meal around 5:30, and then I have dinner around 7:30. Should I spread it out where I'm eating more at 3 hours instead of 2.5?
Yeah, and I think because of your pre and post exercise nutrition modifications we made, that's going to allow you to stay closer to the 3-hour mark, right? Than what you were doing. And it sounds like you were having them all just because, again, you were hungry and you were eating additional meals. So you weren't following the 2 to 3 hour rule. You had one like an hour, an hour and 15 minutes. So yeah, because you really don't have to have the Medifast meals after you have dinner. But for some people, they kind of get munchy or they kind of get something to where they might want to have dinner and then have something afterwards. However, it actually is a good habit to learn to be satisfied and not need sweet flavors or whatever afterwards. And if you can do that and you can stop eating after, let's say you have your last Medifast meal by 5 and then you eat dinner at what time? What time is your lean and green?
Let's say on average 8.
Yes, that's fine. And then see, that's perfect timing because if you ate your last Medifast meal by 5, and then you had dinner at 8, it's a 3-hour window, and then you're done. And then really giving yourself a couple hours before you go to bed for just let your gut kind of digest that. You don't need to eat something right before you jump in the bed.
So I noticed something that I haven't been doing is I don't drink very much water after I eat usually. So if I come home and have dinner and it's 8 o'clock, I don't drink any more water. Now, and I have been drinking about 60 ounces of water, so I need to bump it up as it is. But how important is it to drink water late at night? And I always wake up having to go pee really bad in the morning. Yeah. And I hate that.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll find that if you drink a little more water throughout the earlier part of the day and the mid part of the day, that you're actually going to get that water to go through your body quicker and more effectively, and your body will hold on to less water and inflammation. The reason why people have, so let me just answer one question and I'll give you a little bit of information that I think will help you. Get the majority of your water. So if you're going for 100 ounces per day, try and get the majority of 60 ounces of that before 6 o'clock. Okay. Yeah, get the majority at the front end of the day because you're active, you're on your feet. That's where, see, right now, all of us are perspiring. Right now, you are perspiring. You just can't see it because it's evaporating into the air.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why, when you get into a humid environment, where it's very humid in a certain a steam room, or in you go to some place in, I don't know where, Florida, you start beating up water on you, that's because it can't evaporate. So you get to see how much you're actually sweating. Okay, long story short is that you're on your feet, we're active, our body's metabolizing at a higher rate right now. It's using up water the most now. So people who try and cram all the rest of their water right before they go to bed, they're not really getting as much of the benefit of it. You're getting some of the benefit, but not as much as when you were active and on your feet. Okay. So really try and get that water in the beginning in the morning. Just try and down some. I will tell you it's easier to drink room temperature water from a speed standpoint than it is to drink freezing cold water, especially in the morning. However, some people don't like the way it tastes. They have these palate issues. So maybe you have to go with a little bit more like tea water or some kind of flavor to get it down. Just think of it.
I personally have no problem with any of that water, with any of those, but I understand where you're coming from. I love water if it's cold, warm. It doesn't even matter. I drink tea. I drink, I do what I can. So it sounds like I'm doing the water intake properly. It's just I need to bump it up from about 60 ounces to 100 plus, depending on how active I am that day. So
that's right. And then the other thing is that understand that a reason why a lot of people have to go pee in the middle of the night or a lot in the morning is because when you lay down flat, what happens is all the different cells that are in your body, because gravity's not working against you anymore, okay? Now you're laying, everything's horizontal. All the cells can dump any water they were retaining into the bloodstream, which then can fill your bladder up very quickly while you're laying down flat, okay? So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. And so some people really, really feel like, and that's why you can lose a lot of, dropping stuff. That's why you can lose a lot of weight from the time you went to bed to the time you wake up, because of one, you're perspiring. Secondly, your body's dumping a lot of fluids into the bladder, and then you're going to go pee that out, okay? But yeah, so I think if you hydrate a little more on the front end, you're going to find yourself urinating more before you go to bed, and then you'll find yourself waking up without as great of an urge if you start cutting that water intake back after 6 in the evening. And this is all relative to your schedule of where your waking hours are versus your sleeping hours. If you were somebody who worked graveyard shift, you'd have to modify everything I said to waking and going to sleep and when you wake. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I have no problem urinating. I go all the time.
I'm glad we know that about you.
Which I know is a good thing, because it means I'm cleaning out my system. But yeah.
Good. Well, you're properly hydrated. Yeah. So with all this said, you've got your 5-in-1 base plan. Follow the quick start guide. You've got your pre and post exercise nutrition being modified based on the estimate of how many calories you're burning divided by 2, right? And you want to not go any more than half of those calories, and you can go a little less. The key is that if you go less and you're feeling starved or hungry, then it means you need to go up to the 50% of them, okay?
Okay.
Right? And if you just can't get them all pre or post right then and there, then you can see how you feel. And if you still feel hungry, maybe you can get a few more of them somewhere else. Like if you just can't get them pre and post, maybe they get tacked on somewhere else to help you out time-wise. However, if you're not hungry, don't get them. Okay. And if you do get those extra calories, get them from those moderate to low glycemic foods that are on the quick start guide list.
Okay. So what you're saying is if I'm going to go do my 2 soccer games, but I'm not hungry before the soccer game and I should take in the extra calories, don't do it until I'm actually hungry. So like if after I'm done and I'm starving, then eat.
Yeah. No, when I say you do want to get in a little bit more prior, because the problem is that if you don't, you're going to bonk on that soccer field. Okay. Potentially. And if again, it just depends on what your goal is. If your goal is, I don't care if I play super slow, then yeah, you can get them in the post side, which is fine. You don't need all of them. Just go with about half of what you were going to have. However, if you're finding that you're really dogging it during soccer and it feels gross, just remember you could split some of those pre and get those in. Okay. I'm giving you kind of that flexibility. And again, some of these things are modifications that are specific to staying in as close to the 100% fat burn state as possible.
Yeah.
Had you just been an athlete that I'm working with who wasn't in fat burn, I would say, I don't care if you don't feel hungry prior. You need to eat some extra calories about an hour prior to that soccer game, because your blood sugar, we need your blood sugar way up there. Problem with taking your blood sugar way up is it stops fat burn, right?
Yeah.
Because your body doesn't need fat. And during a soccer game, you really don't want to be in much of a fat burn. You want to just be in maximal performance mode. And blood sugar is like a firecracker. It's just boom, boom, boom. It goes fast. Fat burns like a candle. It burns slower. And that's why you can't have super high intense exercise to be in maximal fat burn. Okay. So good. Well, I think you've got the basis. And when I say this basis, we can actually do some modifications after you go through this for about a week. Let's then see how it's responding, how your appetite is, how your energy is, and what kind of results you're getting, right? And then we can modify. And if you're having a logistic challenge of, this isn't working, then text me or call me as soon as you kind of know. And then those of you who are listening, obviously call your health coach. And if they don't know how to do this sports kind of nutrition modification for somebody who's an athlete doing the best they can to follow a modified program, know that this is not the 5-in-1 plan. This is a modified program, right? And so for those of you who are looking to maximize weight loss, extra exercise is not going to help with extra weight loss while you're trying to maximize it. It sounds funny, but the bottom line is your body knows how to burn fat when you fuel it properly. Exercise is there for other reasons. It's there for fitness. It's there for strength. It's there for speed and all these things. And for those of you who have a lot of weight to lose, the best thing you can do for yourself is get that weight off and then add exercise as a layer down the road. And in April's case, she just has a 2-week commitment to her team that she's not going to give up on. And so we're making this modification to get her through that. And then we're going to readjust after that 2 weeks to see what we need to do. Okay?
Got it.
All right. Well, it was good talking with you today, April.
It was very much